and welcome to another episode of the Blues Focus podcast, airing every week on YouTube, Spotify and Apple Music. I'm Kieran, your host for this episode, and with me this week I've got Elliot and Dan. We're going to start with the disappointing defeat to Bournemouth on Saturday. Dan, welcome back onto the show. For the first time in a while, I'll come to you first for your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks. As soon as I seen the lineup, really, I was thinking, we're in for a long game there. I was hoping for a reaction from the Wigan game, but I think the lineup sort of cancelled that out straight away. It's try and be as optimistic as I can going into every game, but as soon as I seen, no disrespect to him, Bournemouth's playing left back when he isn't a left back, I thought we're in for a tough ride there. And I love Clifton Bell, but it's been a few years since he should have been our starting 11. But I think the fight was there, but the lack of quality was really obvious. And Bournemouth, fair play to them, they're a good side. They'll be up there, but just shows how far away we are sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, Elliot, you agree? I take it you was hoping for a draw last time we spoke.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, Dan said, when I saw the lineup and the formation, I thought, it's going to be a long afternoon. I think they played quite well. To be fair to them, I think they had chances, and like Dan said as well, like just the quality just was lacking, unfortunately. And in terms of the starting 11, I didn't quite understand Bournemouth playing at left wing back. We've seen the last couple of seasons, Colin, move over to the left side when we've had injury problems. And he had Cogley on the bench. He had a good game at Preston. So he could have quite easily slotted in at right back, and we could have probably reverted to 4 at the back or continued with the 5 at the back. But I think that's just, that's where a lot of the supporters are getting a little bit frustrated at the moment. There doesn't seem to be any sort of, continuous use of a set formation or a system at the moment. It's chopping and changing all the time. And unfortunately, like when you get a player like Bournemouth, making a debut in the Championship, he's not coming into a settled system or formation. So it's made incredibly more difficult for a young player to come in and play his own game. So that's just really frustrating, really.
I mean, bit of the match stats for you here. So 38% possession. We actually had 15 shots, only 3 of them on target. 13 key passes, which is the exact same amount as Bournemouth actually made. We attempted 25 crosses as well. So obviously the aerial threat of Djukovic, again, quite a telling part of our game. What else we got here? Interesting ones. Won 25 aerial duels defensively. Committed 17 fouls, which I think you expect when you've got Clifton Bell in the midfield. I mean, I think it's interesting. We've touched on in previous weeks. We've discussed, haven't we, Bournemouth Premier League quality players all through the spine of the team still. Brooks, obviously, a step above our sort of level, really, realistically. But moving into the international break now, good time for Karanka to work on a few things and finally nail down a favoured formation and lineup. Do you think?
I think we needed the international break, definitely, because there was the injuries catching up with us and suspensions, losing Clayton to injury and Sunjic to then suspension. And I think San Jose, although I'm a big fan of his, he looked really leggy in the last 2 games. From the second half of Wickham and into that game against Bournemouth, he needed to come off, but there weren't options that would come on, like David Davis. In Karanka's ideal world, he wouldn't be nowhere near the bench. But that was just a situation we found ourselves in. And I've seen a lot of complaints about on Saturday why we're all our best attacking players on the bench. And as a fan, when we want instant results, it is frustrating. But like, we're not there, are we? We don't see that they would be playing if they didn't need the rest. I'm sure of it. So it's one of them. It's frustrating because we all want instant results, but I'm trying to go with the fact that I know some fans will be annoyed when I say this, but I'm trying to calm myself down this year and go, yeah, it is a project and it's going to take time.
I mean, it's interesting. We've discussed, haven't we, Elliot, on the previous shows about the uproar on Twitter every single time a result doesn't go in our favour, which you'd have thought we'd be used to by now, to be honest. With or without Karanka, it's the way the club's been for years, isn't it? We're a yo-yo club in terms of results, performances. We've never been consistent for probably since going right back to the Houghton years, really. But interesting tweets here. So someone tweeted, I can't stand this project talk. Does anyone actually think next year we're going to see improvement in hit or challenge for top six? Bottom half, if not good enough for my club, project or no project? Someone else just says, I can't understand why 15th is classed as progress when you finished 20th season before. I'm pretty sure 5 places above his progress, but there you go. Someone else tweeted and said, a reminder of our recent league finishes, 19th, 17th and 20th in the past 4 years. Even if we finish 15th this season, it's still an improvement. So many overreactions amongst our fan base at the moment based on whether or not we've won the last game. So, in essence, Elliot, 15th, clearly an improvement on the season before and obviously a work in progress.
Yeah, of course. Like we're talking 11 games at the moment. I hate the word project. It isn't a project. It's not. It's just bollocks. Like he's 11 games into a 3-year contract. You know, it's just early days. That's all. This is all that is. He doesn't know his best team. He doesn't know his best system. He doesn't. At the moment, I think he's a bit of trial and error at the moment. He's trying to work out his best way of going about games. And he will tinker from game to game, depending on who we're playing. As we've seen when he's played against Norwich and Bournemouth, you know, it's been quite defensive, 5 at the back, especially from home as well. He's tried to set up that way. He's tried to utilise 2 strikers at home, whereas away from home he's not been trying to utilise 2 strikers. So he's been trying different systems. But yeah, it's not a project. It's just early days. It's 11 games in. But I think we've got to give it till Christmas at the very earliest and analyse it then and see where we are. If we're entrenched in the bottom 3 New Year's Day, then it might be time to start thinking, okay, what can we do now? Because, you know, but we're nowhere near that at the moment. So losing 3-1 to Bournemouth and having a bad 10 minutes against Wycombe is definitely not the time to panic, I don't think.
I mean, Dan, we've not had you on the show for a couple of weeks, obviously, so just to get your thoughts really on the season so far. What do you think? You know, it's interesting to get your point of view. You're not part of the Twitter meltdown, are you?
Absolutely not. Again, after every defeat, I've tried to sit back and go, right, stay calm, you know, because we've had worse. We've been in worse hands than Karanka, and I know that don't give him excuses for everything. Like, oh, it don't matter because Karanka's a good manager. There is times when he's at fault because he's not perfect. But I think the thing that almost made us expect too much at the start was when we beat Brentford. It was great at the time, but looking back, it's almost like that set us up to fail almost the next time we lost a game, because it'd be like, oh well, we beat Brentford and now we can't even do this. But it's one of them. I do agree with the project talk, actually. It is early days. It's not a project. It is early days. That's all it is. But I think Karanka's even the reason why he's tinkering so much is because he's not setting. He probably hasn't set targets really for himself this season at all, apart from just to have an okay season. He's probably trying to see what his team's capable of in any situation, in any formation. And again, as I said earlier, for us fans, it's frustrating because when it comes to Saturday, we don't care about project talk or early days. We want to win. So, but looking back at it, we've had some good moments. beating Preston, showing character against Huddersfield when they equalised late on. A good draw against Swansea. Had some bad moments, but again, early days, and I'm not going to panic. I think the problem is, the reason why we panic so much is we're very patient with poor managers, but when we have a good manager, it's like sometimes we expect it to click straight away. So when it doesn't, we're like, oh, what's going on? But we just got to stay calm and hope for things to improve quickly.
I mean, you say it is true. Obviously, we all want to win the game. We want to win every game, don't we? But it's early days, as you're saying. We've got to keep our feet on the ground. Really, can't be realistic. And let's just say, for example, it's a 2-year project, as some people say. So this year is about stabilising the club and making sure we just don't go into the final day expecting to go down. Realistically, next season then is obviously about building on that top 6 challenge or whatever it might be. Realistically, this isn't going to be the squad that could potentially take us up out of the league, is it? So is it a case of he's looking at these players ready for January, ready for the summer, and saying, right, you're good enough to be in my squad when I make a top 6 push, you're not, are you? You know, your likes of Boyd Muntz, he's obviously assessing him. David Davis, like you say, looks like he's going to be shown the door come January, I'm guessing. Kifton Baldy's trying to get a feel for how he fits into the side. Can he do what he wants Sunjic to do when he's absent? So there's a lot of question marks over a lot of players' heads still, realistically. But then, obviously, you've got the likes of Seddon out on loan, who's due to come back as well. Doing the wing-back role very well for Wimbledon again this season. So I suppose we aren't going to really know much from this early part of the season, are we? But, I mean, personally, Elliot, what do you think? What changes would you make to the squad coming up in the weeks coming? Really, what is it about time he nails down a first 11 now?
Yeah, of course. I think it's difficult. I think we've been hit with a few injuries, a suspension as well lately. I think it's imperative that we get Friend back as soon as possible. I think we look a lot more solid at the back. He's a lot more vocal than what we've got at the moment. Obviously, we need Pedersen back. Clark Salter to come back as well, fit. So we've got options to come back soon. I think, I think it's difficult, and it's difficult to criticise Karanka at the moment when you've got a lot of players in and out of the sides with fitness problems and whatnot. To say, oh, why are you not playing a settled team when he hasn't got a settled team at his disposal? So I think I'd like to see us become a little bit more solid at the back as we have been previous to the last 2 games. And I definitely would like to see us play a similar sort of starting lineup, sort of at least in a couple of consecutive games, just to see what they can do. Because they've got a 2-week break now. They've got a bit of rest. So I'd like to see them come back. I'd like to see us come back and play a settled, perhaps not a settled system, but at least 8 or 9 players play consecutive games would be nice. At least 9 players. So just 1 or 2 changes here and there, not 3, 4, 5 changes, which we have been seeing.
Another interesting tweet that I've just remembered from Saturday. Just to get your opinions on it. Someone said, Maxim Collan is shite, time and time again, constantly out of position. Discuss.
Yeah, wrong.
Yeah, it's just not true, is it? I don't even know how to go into detail with that. He wasn't at his best last season, Collan, but I think he started the season quite well. But again, as I said before this started, this is where we miss fans in the stadium, because if you just look at the picture on Twitter, it looks bleak all the time, doesn't it, on Twitter? The second you concede a goal with the worst team in the world, whereas in a normal world where the fans are in the stadium, you probably wouldn't be hearing things as drastic as what you've been seeing on Twitter. But that's the Twitter world for you in football.
It's I think it's key to have a bit of realism about it as well. Let's be honest, we've just lost to a team that's kept the majority of the players that very, very nearly stayed in the Premier League last season. Yeah, they came down, obviously. They weren't good enough over 38 games, but Brooks, Josh King, Solanke, Lerma, all these players are Premier League players, aren't they? So we weren't good enough on Saturday, but there's no real shame in losing to Bournemouth. It's not like we should have turned them over 4 or 5-0. You know, I'd imagine we'd have all been happy with a point before the start of the game. Let's be honest, no one was realistically going, we're definitely going to win this. So to see the meltdown on social media again was, I was going to say surprising, but it doesn't surprise me anymore. To be honest, the Wigan game, I understand people's frustrations. Newly promoted team, never played at the Championship before, 1-0 up with 10 minutes left. So, yeah, that is frustrating. But again, still no cause for a mental breakdown.
Well, that's it. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Obviously, I'm not saying that they're not. But I do think sometimes on Twitter it's more looking for a like than actual what they're thinking. Or it's what they're thinking in that second, what they would normally stop themselves from saying probably in the stadium. But, it's one of them things.
Yeah, I mean, one key about it, Scott Hogan finally getting his first goal. Think he can, think he can kick on from here now. Or hope he can kick on from here now. He's playing off Jukovic at home by the looks of it for most games, so it'll be interesting to see if they can find what they had pre-lockdown, I suppose.
Yeah, I've been saying it for a while. We need the pre-lockdown Hogan to return rather than the post-lockdown one. He's obviously come out today and said that he hasn't had pre-season, or he's lacked a pre-season, so he's not up to full fitness, but you can kind of see it in his previous performances that he's been off the boil a little bit. He's not been reacting to chances. He's not been, he's been miscontrolling passes and stuff. He's not really been there, has he? But now's his chance now, and to prove us all wrong in the next sort of 3 or 4 games. Hopefully, he can go on a little run now and start scoring. But he's definitely a confidence player, and like a lot of people say, once he gets a goal, it'd be all right. I think he'll start scoring now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just he's come out today, hasn't he? He's spoke to the Blues website about his season so far, and says obviously he had no pre-season. He's kind of finding his feet and getting used to the way Karanka wants him to play. So that goal will do him the world of good, won't it? Moving forward, now you just hope that he can kick. That gives him that kick that he needs to really find his form again. Like you say, very, very often, more often than not, you see confidence players, once they get one, they get 5, 6, 7, don't they? Like he did last year for us. So let's see what happens. So what's that? 3 wins in 22 at home now. So
next question.
So yeah, that's got Coventry away at home in a few weeks.
Yeah, technically at home, yeah.
Something to look forward to. It's on Sky as well, I believe.
Yeah, did anyone see the stat today on Twitter that they reckon that we've lost more home games than we've won in the last 10 years? I think we've lost 75 and we've won 74. Bearing in mind, we did have the Clark era where we didn't win at home for a whole year. So probably
that's the point.
Skews that data a little bit, doesn't it? But yeah, it's definitely something we need to improve on. I think it's just that home form, isn't it? Like we just, away from home, I think we're okay, but it's just at home.
For some reason, we do. Sorry, carry on.
No, go on, Dan.
I was just saying, for some reason, we do still seem to think it's a fortress, don't we? For some reason, every time we win, we go Fortress St Andrews. But I'm probably even looking back to, obviously, the Houghton days, but probably the McLeish days, since it was really a fortress. And, like, you know, when we used to bring the big boys down, Man U, Liverpool, Chelsea, they wouldn't come away with a win, would they? We'd at least get a point off them at home. But things like that, you know, now it's become bottom of the league will rock up at St Andrews and take away the 3 points for the last how many years?
Yeah, it's just it's a bit worrying. That's all. Like it's definitely the home form is definitely the concern. It needs to improve. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, another interesting. Just found a few more tweets to mention. Part of the meltdown. Well, actually, this one's not really part of the meltdown. So next 4 games: Coventry away, Luton away, Millwall at home, and Barnsley at home. How many points do we take from the next 4 games?
12.
Happy with what? 7, 8?
Yeah, yeah. I'll be realistic now. I'll take anything. Yeah, 7. I could live with 6, but you know, 7. Yeah, 7 anywhere around there. I don't think we can be too disgruntled with, really.
I mean, Coventry away, technically at home, Luton away, Millwall and Barnsley at home. Millwall always seem to blooming beat us at our place, don't they? Let's be honest. Barnsley on a good run of form. Luton doing better than they should be. Coventry being Coventry. So, be a few interesting. The next 4 games will be very interesting to be able to judge what we're actually capable of this year, because they're the teams in and around who you'd expect to be in and around us in mid-table, with maybe the exception of Millwall, who seem to be doing better than I'd like them to be. Another one for you. I wonder how many fans will still be saying it's a work in progress when we don't pick up points against Coventry, Luton, Millwall and Barnsley. We have a good enough squad to pick at least 7 points out of them games. Time for the team to stand up for once.
It's a work in progress.
Time for the team to stand up for once. So obviously, scrap what you just said, that we showed character against Huddersfield, because we didn't.
Yeah, yes, it's gone. I do agree with the point that, like, one thing I'd say sometimes, looking at some of the subs that Karanka's made, and then we might have conceded, and it looks like we're playing defensively. I'd sometimes argue that must just be a mentality set in some of the players, because I think it might have been Huddersfield. Obviously, we got away with it in the end, but winning 1-0 was still bringing on offensive substitutions. We're still bringing on attacking charges. So I doubt he'd bring on attacking charges yet, say go on and defend when we have the defensive options on there. But I do think sometimes, because our form's been that bad, when we're winning, we go, right, let's not lose. That I do think that's like some of the old players in there have got that mentality of, right, we need to win. Just don't concede.
I think it's interesting to see that obviously started to leak a couple of goals in the games where Roberts and Dean have been paired together. Again, they just seem to be a partnership that doesn't quite cut it, really, which is no knock on either of them, to be honest. Good players to have in the squad, but as we're really just crying out to Clark Salter to get back to fitness and get back in the lineup.
I do think Harley Dean is a lot better next to someone who's more composed than he is. When, like, no disrespect to Mark Roberts, but he does make me feel nervous sometimes, like, because I don't think it's anything he can help. It's just the way he moves, and, like, you know, he can be quite clumsy. But you know, I do think, like, when George Friend's next to Harley Dean, and he's a leader as well, isn't he? So he helps control the defence. I think you see a lot better of Harley Dean as well, and a lot better of the whole back four when someone more calm is in there as well.
Yeah, I think Roberts does spark that chaos back there, doesn't he? Sometimes.
Yeah, Roberts is he's a quality defender in the air, but on the deck, very susceptible. Like Dan said, sooner we can get back someone with a bit of composure at the back, like George Friends, who's a bit more vocal as well. Dean's just a far better player. We've already seen it. So, and a Clark Salter as well. So that'll just boost our options there.
I mean, that's a solid back five, isn't it? Everidge in goal, Colin, Dean, Clark Salter, Friend at left back. If we went with that.
I mean, I think Harley Dean's had a good season so far. I wouldn't drop Harley Dean from the centre of that defence. I would probably put Clark Salter next to him, and I would probably put Friend at left back. In my opinion, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the five at the back. I'd rather us go back to the four at the back. So it'll be Clark Salter next to Dean, and then Friend at left back and Colin at right back, and then San Jose sat right in front of them. So we can go into that five at the back if we need to, if we're under a lot of pressure.
I mean, how many times over the past few years have we tried to adapt to this five at the back, and it just doesn't seem to work for us, does it? For whatever reason, we tried it under Zola, tried it under Clotet. I mean, Clotet scrapped it after about 2 games, to be fair to him. Realised it wasn't going to work.
After a full pre-season of working on it.
I suppose you've got to have the right players for it, haven't you? That's the thing. You've got to sign with the idea that that's what you're going to play. I don't think Karanka's never really played that, has he? And I don't think he signed the players to play that. It's just a case of he's trying out anything and everything right now to try and get the best out of what he's got.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think over the next few months, or next few windows at least, you're definitely going to see Karanka put more of a stamp on what he wants to do. Again, there's going to be a lot of players out the door. I mean, one rumour we have seen inbound, though, Joe Pigott, striker from AFC Wimbledon. Is it 6 goals and 4 assists? I think he's got this season so far. So something that excites you, Dan, in January, if we could get hold of it.
I'm not going to pretend that I'm, when we get linked to a player, all of a sudden you know everything about him. So I don't know, really. If he's doing okay in League One, fair play to him, but I'm not going to pretend to know anything about him. So I can't really answer that one.
I suppose the problem with some Blues fans is they just don't want us to be linked with a player that's in a lower league than us for a start off. They just see that as a backwards step, don't they, when you've been linked to the likes of Alexander Pato on a free contract, I suppose. That can happen, but Elliot, same boat, don't really know much about him.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of him, but yeah, didn't know. I thought he'd been around a lot longer. He's only 26, so I don't know. It's difficult. We are a striker light, as we've already said. So why not? He's going to be a cheap option from League One. Was it League Two?
League One.
No, League One. Yeah, if he's going to be a cheap option, he's scoring goals and assisting goals this season, and why not?
And then one interesting thing that we done on Twitter this weekend, which I can quote was an actual lol, was Elliot decided it was a good idea, and I completely agreed that we done our secret favourite drinks. No copyright on that, I don't believe. So before we discuss the results, I would like to apologise to anyone upset and salty about this particular thing we've done, especially to Elliot, as I know he wanted Blue WKD to win. So we went with Lambrini, we went with Classic Smirnoff Ice, we went with Blue WKD, we went with White Lightning Cider, which I'm pretty sure everyone drank back in the day. And the winner of round 1 was the Classic Smirnoff Ice. Unfortunately, they don't sell it in Aldi when I was doing my little shop earlier, so we can't drink to the winner, which, again, not something I've ever seen anywhere else. So, but we need some suggestions for the next round.
I think the wrong one won, to be honest.
It's fake news. Fake news. We counted all the results. We didn't stop the
Stop the
vote.
count.
We didn't stop the count. We let it go all the way. 102 votes, 36% to Smirnoff Ice. So, you know, a solid 30 odd people at least voted for that.
They're wrong.
Yeah. Well, Adam, for your information, says he wants Frosty Jacks in the next round. But obviously, you can't put Frosty Jacks up against White Lightning side. You've got to have at least one cheap cider option in there, haven't you, really?
Definitely.
Other people didn't quite understand what he was saying. Someone said, is this a piss take? No, look at the options. It was clearly 100% authentic. Yeah, other people just not quite understanding what we was trying to get at, but never mind. We'll carry on. Dust ourselves down and go again for the next show.
Sounds like a Steve Bruce. That sounds like a Steve Bruce comment. That does.
Yeah, we'll get our boots on.
Dust ourselves down. Yeah.
We'll get our boots on. And
how's the bacon? Did you say?
Yeah. Please no throwing cabbages at us if you don't like the results.
I've done on the shot now, so you can't get your bed sheets.
I don't know. I think they'd be protesting our opinions on the game more than anything else. Yeah, pick that up again next time, I'm sure. Well, I mean, it's great to have you back on the show again, Dan. Thanks for coming on.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Fortunately, you've done more than Callum does. Turns up 5 minutes and then just leaves, blames his internet. So, at least you had to put up with him this episode. So, every cloud. That's all we've got time for on this show anyway, but thanks for joining me. As always, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Get us your questions on the socials at Blues Focus Pod. We'll be sitting down again after the Coventry game as we've got an international break. Be sure to keep your eyes peeled for some more interesting polls. We'll get some more ideas together. Until then, speak to you later.